Hello and welcome to my Resonating Theory project. I created what I am calling the Adolescent Career Expansion Model, or ACEM for short. I really enjoyed this project. I really enjoyed learning about all the theories that already exist, and maybe it's not necessarily a large gap, but a gap that I did find when researching the theories is the perspective through the adolescent brain, and that is the population I'm most interested in serving. I feel like a lot of the theories that exist are: what skills do you have? What values do you have? Let's mesh that. Let's find the career for you. However, I'm looking at it through the lens of an adolescent brain, and adolescents may have more of a narrow viewpoint of what jobs and careers are actually available to them based on socioeconomic factors, family factors, expectations, societal pressures, mental health. So this model is built to consider all of those factors, and so let's just get right on into it. So the core premise is adolescents make career decisions within a narrow perceived world shaped by family expectations, socioeconomic realities, peer norms, and emotional well-being. Their choices are often constrained not by ability or interest, but limited exposure and internalized beliefs about what is possible. This theory aims to challenge these assumptions and motivate adolescents to consider a broader range of careers. The key constructs are, starting with number 1, perceived possibility space; number 2, influential forces system; number 3, identity exploration capacity; and then finally number 4, exposure and experience. So we're going to go ahead and start off by talking about perceived possibility space. Perceived possibility space, or as I'm calling it, PPS, is the set of careers an adolescent believes are realistically available to them. This can be shaped by family expectations, socioeconomic constraints, school environment, peer norms, mental health and self-efficacy, cultural narratives about people like me. This space is often much smaller than their actual potential. So looking at PPS in a case study, we're going to be following this case study throughout the whole presentation. Meet Jasmine, age 15. Jasmine lives in a low-income household. Parents strongly encourage practical careers like nursing or teaching. Her school has limited electives and no career center. Peer group values popularity and social media presence. Jasmine does struggle with anxiety and low confidence, and she believes that she really only has a few realistic options. So initially, when considering the PPS, you ask Jasmine to list the careers she thinks are realistically available to her. She lists nurse, teacher, retail worker, maybe cosmetology. She says things like, people like me don't become scientists. My parents would freak out if I pick something weird. And she even says, I'm not smart enough for anything else. So right now we can see that her PPS is narrow, and it's shaped by what she sees in her family and community, her school. Those sorts of pressures are narrowing her PPS. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to influential forces system. Influential forces system, or as I'm calling it, the IFS, is the network of external pressures shaping career thinking. So this can be parental influence, explicit expectations, implicit modeling, emotional approval, socioeconomic environment, access to resources, community norms, opportunity structures, emotional and mental health factors, anxiety, depression, motivation, self-esteem. I did find when I was reading about the other theories, I felt like a lot of them were missing this emotional, mental health factors. If you are someone who struggles with anxiety, that is going to limit your PPS and the jobs that you think are available to you. So I really thought it was important to highlight that in the IFS. Peer and social pressures, desire for belonging, fear of judgment. So again, IFS can either constrict or expand the PPS. So maybe you do have parents that are really encouraging. They have a strong influence on you to be your best self, to explore other opportunities, or maybe it's the opposite and like in Jasmine's case, only want you to have a practical career, and their terms of practical are nursing, teaching, etc. So looking at Jasmine's case, we note while working with her that her parental influence, parents emphasize job security, they discourage risky or unfamiliar careers, and they want her close to home. Some socioeconomic environment things to consider. She has limited exposure to professionals. Her school does not offer STEM clubs or advanced courses. Emotional and mental health considerations in Jasmine's case are that her anxiety makes her avoid trying new things. She has low self-efficacy. She says things like, I'd fail anyway. And she has a fear of disappointing her parents. So again, that kind of ties into the parental influence, but it is under emotional and mental health. Also, finally, peer pressure. Her friends mock nerdy interests, and social status tied to appearance and popularity is significantly impacting Jasmine. So in step 2 in the IFS, we're now beginning to understand why Jasmine's PPS is so small, because of all these things that are influencing her. So now let's move on to identity exploration capacity. Identity exploration capacity is the adolescent's ability to imagine themselves in diverse roles. IEC is influenced by self-concept clarity, emotional regulation, exposure to role models, supportive relationships, and cognitive development. Low IEC equals difficulty imagining alternative futures. So this is something really, I think, monumental with adolescents, is because of their narrow viewpoint on the world. We want to encourage them to do identity exploration so that way they can be drawn towards a career path that serves them, their identity, their values. So looking at Jasmine's case, some activities that we could do is strengths inventory. We can talk about her strengths. We can do a values card sort. We can do a guided reflection on interests she's never shared with peers. Through this, she reveals that she loves solving puzzles. She spends hours editing videos on her phone. She's curious about how apps work, and she's embarrassed to admit that she likes tech stuff. So now her IEC, her identity, begins to grow, and she can imagine more than one version of herself. So now this is the fun part for us, the exposure and experience. So the exposure and experience catalyst, or as I'm calling it, the EEC, are intentional interventions that broaden the PPS and strengthen the IEC. So this could be finding job shadowing opportunities, mentorship opportunities, having Jasmine listen to career narratives from diverse adults, hands-on experiences, virtual simulations, and we really want to use strength-based feedback, using motivational interviewing, strength-based approach. We want to build this human up so that way they can their PPS can expand. So EECs are the active ingredient of change in this theory. These are the actual interventions that we will be doing. So looking at Jasmine's case, you intentionally broaden Jasmine's world through intervention. Examples: a virtual tour of a tech company, a short video on women in cybersecurity, a conversation with a college student studying digital media. Something like that can make such a difference in someone's life. A hands-on activity where she edits a short video using professional software. Do you even like doing this? A career story from a Latina software engineer. These experiences disrupt her assumptions. She says things like, I didn't know people like her did that. I didn't know video editing could be a job. I thought tech was only for geniuses, right? So we begin to see that her PPS starts expanding based on these interventions that we're including. So now let's revisit Jasmine's PPS. We're going back to step 1. We ask her, what are some jobs that you could see yourself doing? She says things like video editor, social media content strategist, digital marketing, graphic designer, cybersecurity analyst, all things that she didn't know were even possible. And she does list nurse, which was on her original list, but the important thing is it's not the only thing on her list anymore. So now we're going to support decision making. We're going to help her connect her interests, strengths, and realistic opportunities. Together, we're going to work to identify electives she can take next year, free online courses in video editing and coding. Also, from a therapeutic lens, we can have a conversation plan for discussing new interests with her parents. If her parents are closed-minded, how can we go about explaining this to them, explaining the passion, explaining what she's going to do to get herself there? And then lastly, strategies for managing anxiety when trying new things. These are things that we can help Jasmine to build her up so that way her PPS can be expanded. It's important to note she hasn't chosen a career yet, but she is choosing exploration, which is developmentally appropriate for this age. To bring it back to the model, we're working to expand perceived possibility space. We're considering those influential forces systems. We're developing the identity exploration capacity, and then we're implementing exposure and experience. So that is the theory that I created, the Adolescent Career Expansion Model. I appreciate you listening, and have a great rest of your day.